who wrote them, who had quite an impact also on the university scene in Germany. No? So even academics wrote for Bayreuth whether Byron leaves. So, I think the dimension, it's not only a crazy, confused individual person, but Wagner needed, of course, like Hitler, by the way, also, of course, you cannot kill the man without a general society need, the context. There was a person who delivered something which also was accepted by groups who could decide on history. And that's why, of course, the combination, the sequence, they had, of course, a very tragic and, I think, terrible dimension. This, for you as an academic, when you read really his, I did this terrible reading of 11,000 pages, which is sometimes gives them the feel of really feeling exhausted and you start to vomit. For us, in our hopefully open society, but this has to be read to understand that. Of course, it remains. You can, whatever you do, even when you make new interpretations, you cannot leave that out. But I want to be also more concrete. What is so fascinating in a certain way, it's a musical scene. Wagner, as we know, when he had periods in which he was extremely anti-Semitic, when he wrote a lot of especially aggressive writings against Jews. And in the same period, he was very creative as an artist and created figures, and I want to be even more concrete, like Beckwesser from Wassersäcke of Nuremberg, which are also like Albrecht and Mime and Kunteledon and Parsifal, which were meant by Wagner as Jewish caricatures. That means his streams, personal streams of aversion, he put in his music, was very inspired by his hatred against Jews to create, which can be proven. So I think, you cannot, when you just talk about these, the idea, for example, of manipulating the world by gold is so clearly expressed by Albrecht and Mime. So when you put all these elements together with his writings, and you put again also why at the very end of Parsifal, the Jewish character of Kundry, so was also conceived like that, after having baptized. Nevertheless, she had to die. Wagner gives an explanation even for that. Someone, a Jew, and even in combination with a Christian, always comes out of a Jew, but in a racist sense. So Wagner made even after being baptized, Kundry is baptized, she nevertheless has to die. So these are references which were understood by the public immediately as such. So, of course, when we know it today, we talk about it, it is for us, the historical, I think we're talking about World War II, means also 60 million dead, really people, the greatest disaster. So when we talk about the discussion of Wagner today, we have to be aware that there is this kind of historical context, and they have to be extremely critical about it. And we don't have to leave it out, only saying we have not only to do with the most beautiful music. In the Wagner case, is just impossible. So we have to make a discussion like which word should be discussed out in detail. I have tried to present, and I hope to see also some young faces in my first presentation here in Malta. I was talking about Tristan Isolde, this master, but very important also for the arts, for the development of music. So I think it is really a very complex, and the why, coming also again, why, as you see, in the Wagner case, there's a psychoanalytical side. There is also the side of Wagner, like a deep crisis of identity, who I am, the self-hatred. In his case, the historical development, the failed revolution of 1848 is a historical context. then the general tendencies of the second half of the 19th century, that generally, again, anti-Semitism grew. So this kind of, also Wagner as a radical, also opportunist who wanted to get through also his ideas. So there are really very concrete indications why Wagner is really a very heavy and very difficult case for us until today. It hasn't changed.
A number of questions, perhaps some of them might be short. One of them is hypothetical. Do you think that if Hitler had never happened, we would have ever talked about Wagner's anti-Semitism? The second question, do you believe that music essentially in itself can be anti-Semitic?
Okay, I think this is already rather complex. This kind of...
Should we take some questions and then answer them together, or you want to do them one by one?
I think one by one.
One by one.
Mike, you know, this is so complex.
No.
I mean, first of all, there is no if. I mean, for me, I really do not like to make theoretical discussion. If, because it was like that. You know, we cannot change. Unfortunately, we cannot change. If, I mean, again, it's a fact. It's a fact. We have all the documents, and it's documented that Wagner wrote this very aggressive anti-Semitic writings. We have the documents that, in many documents of Hitler, who wrote very clearly always on Wagner as his cultural, political model.
Could I rephrase the question? If Hitler had not made a cult of Wagner, would we have ever talked of Wagner's anti-Semitism?
I'm positive we would have, even without Hitler, have talked, but you know, it's for me very speculative, because Hitler is the intonation of a very terrible, I think, form of destructive racism, the idea. So for me, you know, again, for me, Wagner has this dark side, and you know, but Hitler was there. Unfortunately, there is no if. It's just a historical sequence out of that. So we cannot make speculation. If not, that is the consequences of Nazi Germany for Europe and the rest of the world are a disaster in of 60 million, let's say, tragedies. No, so I think every single case is a tragedy for me.